Hi, my name's Aaron. I am a localization architect at On Purpose Studio. We help software companies improve their localization, both within their development teams as well as with the localization professionals in their organization. One of the most common misunderstandings developers have about localization in a code base is that it is a technical problem, and I always make sure they understand it is a linguistic problem, not a technical one. And so I wanted to record a quick video to discuss this today. Human language has structure. There are adjectives, there are nouns, there are subjects, there are verbs. And whenever you are building a localization tech stack, it is a technical implementation of human language. And human language can get pretty complicated. And whenever you translate any piece of content into different languages, all of the individual pieces of that sentence can get moved around. And so as you're building out your system, you have to understand some basic linguistic concepts in order to choose the right technical implementation. And one of the most obvious things that engineers understand once it's explained to them is that human language isn't built around efficiency, but often engineers build their internationalization and their translation strings all with a efficiency mindset. And so this can actually cause a lot of conflict between developers and localization professionals because they are coming at the same problem from two different perspectives. So let's talk about this example. You have two forms, a register form, a login form. From my perspective, I see a lot of the same values for the labels. I'm sure the placeholders and the hints and all of these things are going to be pretty similar. And so as a developer, I would say, okay, well, we're using the same words, so therefore I'm going to use the same translation key within each of these forms. That makes a lot of sense because, again, they're the same words. You are going to have fewer things to manage, and it's pretty obvious from the outset. And so that's an example of how a developer looks at this problem, and that is actually against the concept of human language. So in reality, whenever a linguist over time works with an area, they aren't thinking in terms of efficiency and spreading across the same key across the whole code base. They're thinking in terms of this context. And the reality is that over time, your register form and your login form, depending on the localization needs of your company, are going to diverge. And because as an engineer, you have chosen efficiency as the first goal and not linguistics and human language as the first goal, you are now going to have conflict as this piece of code grows. So the linguistic mindset to have would be to think, okay, register form, I know that over time, the wording and the labels and the hints and the content on it might diverge from the login form. Therefore, I'm going to see these as two individual pieces of content, and I am going to namespace the keys in some certain way that allows for them to diverge in the future, and it doesn't create some kind of obligation for the development team to remember in what areas are we using the label.email address translation key. It allows for the developers to not really worry about that, and it lets the linguists only care about the register form or the login form. And so I can hear you saying, well, now we have multiple instances of the word email address in translation strings. And that's a great point. And that's also solved by using a translation management system, which I talk about in the Dry Your Translation Strings video. Take a look at it. But effectively, that is something that is still solvable, and you can still achieve that same efficiency by using any modern translation management system. They have something called translation memory. So it doesn't matter how many times you send up the words email address. If it has been translated previously, it will just land back into your code base. And if the writers and the linguists in your company do decide, okay, we're going to have a different direction we go with the login form, and we're going to make some changes here and there. You as a development team don't really have to care about that because you know that the login form has its own unique translation keys, and you have prepared for the eventuality that human language will diverge. And now you don't have to worry about whether or not the new translation makes sense on the register form as well. You have set yourself up for success. And so this is really what I want you to take away is that your localization tech stack is a technical abstraction of human language, and linguistics and grammar and translation should be at the forefront of your technical implementation, and efficiency can still be achieved, but it usually looks differently than how engineers expect. So if you want to learn more about this, reach out to us at onpurpose.studio. Would love to talk to your company and improve your localization tech stack. Thanks.